I feel like my role today is to just bring the dads in, bring them in, bring them in. I have Sam and Kevin with me. How have you been finding today, and has anything really resonated with you?
I've found that there's been so many inspirational points that have been made and so many amazing stories. And a couple of times I've gone to break into applause, but there's quite a lot of sleeping babies around this area, so I don't think that would have been a good idea. But I think it's been great to just listen to all those stories. I suppose as a dad myself, I'm a stand-up comedian as well, so I've always been very comfortable talking about my own insecurities and my own failings, because that's where comedy lives. You don't get a lot of laughs from talking about how you've had a great day and everything's worked out fine, because that's really boring. We've all got one friend who's like that, and they've got no good stories whatsoever. But when I started blogging about being a dad, it's mainly women and mainly mums who read my blog, and they were often coming to me saying, I'm really glad someone's being honest about this, but that was never something I set out to do. It was just a case of, I didn't know what I was doing either, and it was nice to hear that there was a conversation starting between people who were also being able to feel comfortable to admit that they were also struggling, which is a point that people have brought up a lot today.
And that's the amazing thing about blogging. You know, you get your thoughts down. It's kind of like therapy almost. You get all your thoughts down onto paper and then, or onto a screen, and then you just press send. And something you've got no idea what's going to come back sometimes, but having those voices say, me too, it's the most amazing feeling.
Yeah, it is really fantastic, and it's empowering as well. Yep. And when people, it's been empowering for me, to be honest, because it's not only people saying, oh, thank God you've written that, because I thought my kid was the only kid that does that. I've actually read that and gone, oh, thank God they've said that, because I thought my kid was the only kid that did that. So it's like a two-way street, really. But I think communication and having that conversation is really important, and that's why I think today's been great.
Absolutely. And what about you? Have you enjoyed it? Have you found it interesting? What sparked your imagination?
No, for me, I'm really impressed that we've got men coming here talking about this as well, because for me, I was a teenage parent at 17, and when I found I was a father, I was very isolated, you know, and I didn't really hang around with the good crowd. And I remember being in my business class at college, not talking to anyone in the classroom because I felt I was different from everyone. And, you know, and I think it's important for us to talk about this, you know, because, you know, as Mark mentioned earlier, mental health for men can come across as in different forms: aggression, drugs, and, you know, I'd say gangs as well, because it does include in that. And for me, I was really isolated, not having anyone to talk to, and it took years before I came out of my shelf. And I was really impressed about when they said talk to someone else, because I went out there and I spoke to someone else, and I spoke to someone else. Even though I didn't get any help from NHS, I managed to find a charity that was able to support me and give me that space where I was able to sit down and have cognitive therapy, which I call Mind Connect sessions, because that was what empowered me, because I realized I was the person who was actually solving the issues of what I was going through. You know, there was no one that was going to fix that for me. So I think it's really important. I think men need to talk about this more, especially dads and young boys who are, you know.
I couldn't agree more. And actually, while I walked down to Amber, I can say that actually I can remember being sat on a chair when Buzz was little with Tom, both of us just sat there crying, and us both being like, I don't know what we've done, the bond, what are we doing? And us both just being there in despair. And I think having Tom there was a massive thing, because I don't think I'd ever heard a dad say it. So I think that dads talking about it is incredibly important. Hi, camera, we're walking towards you, that's fun. Right. Amber's here. Amber, you've got a question for the panel.
Yeah, my question is, how can I have a successful co-parenting with my child's father, as I'm a single mum and I'm only 20, so I find it like really hard, and we've been split up now for 2 years, and it's just like really like difficult, because like I don't know, I think like it's like weird, because like I seem to think that he still loves me, but like we split up for like personal reasons, which I can't go back there, and it's just like it causes arguments, it causes problems, it causes pretty much everything. And like obviously my little boy's like in the middle of it all, and like I always feel like guilty, and like it makes me feel like really like crap, to be honest, because like he's in the middle of it all.
Yeah.
And it just makes me like, I just don't know what to do.
That's a really good question. I mean, Annie from Netmums, I bet you get a lot of this, because we talk about co-parenting where both mum and dad are at home, but actually when you're trying to co-parent, you're trying to think about what's best for the child. Maybe, as Amber was saying, it's been a really difficult time for you personally as well, and you maybe don't feel a lot of love for your baby's dad. How do you work through that? How do you deal with that?
That is very difficult. But again, you're not alone. Lots and lots and lots of families up and down the country are parenting in that fashion. And so there are lots of people out there to talk to and ask for advice and for help. So it's important that you talk about it. At NetMums, we work with a brilliant charity called 1+1, who helps support parents who are still together or are apart to develop better communication skills. So whether you're still in a relationship with your child's partner or you've separated, it's still important that you communicate with each other. You're going to be in each other's lives forever because you are both parents to a child. So it's important that if you can't find a way of communicating successfully on your own, that you go and get some help and ask for some help from someone who can facilitate that conversation, because that conversation will keep needing to be had as that child grows up.
Yeah, it's good advice. Yeah. Thank you again to all of you. The time has flown by, 2 hours. But thank you to all of you who've been joining in here at the Blackpool Tower Circus. Thank you to everybody who's been on touch as well on the hashtag #MumTakeover. That conversation, even though we're finishing here in probably less than 10 minutes now, that conversation is going to carry on online. So whether it's experience, advice, support, whatever it is you want to share. We're kind of heading to the end, which is why I wanted to speak to Danielle, who's back here, because you've got a really good question to ask, which kind of sums up everything that we talk about. It's almost impossible, really, to kind of work out, navigate a path through life, isn't it? And your question is about having it all, really. Just tell me about your story.
Yeah, of course. My name's Danielle and I am mum to 18-month-old Anders, and my second son was sadly stillborn 10 weeks ago. But I work as a public affairs manager, and before Anders, I wasn't 1 ounce maternal at all and didn't really think about having babies or anything. So when I went back to work, I found it incredibly difficult to try and give 100% to work, which is what I'd always done, and give 100% to Anders, who was my whole world. And I just wondered if anyone here had the secret to the elusive having it all. I find it completely impossible having half of it, to be honest. So anyone can share anything with me, that'd be wonderful.
It is that classic kind of splitting yourself, isn't it? And going from feeling before you had kids that you maybe did 1 or 2 things quite well, to feel that everything you do in life, you do it to kind of average level.
Yeah, you kind of hope that you were doing everything well, but carrying on life 100 miles an hour and then finding out that all of a sudden your jobs and your things to do and your set of responsibilities have doubled, if not quadrupled, because of this little person who's become your whole life. It's just incredibly difficult to balance things.
Yeah.
Especially when you're as, not very organised like I am.
Is there anybody here who's organised? Because if there is, we need to chat at the end of the programme. I need to find out your secret. Actually, that's a really good question. I mean, Can we have it all? Can anybody have it all? You can tell I'm bringing the microphone to you purely because you've got a small, lovely, chunky hand in your mouth. Can we have it all?
I don't know, maybe.
You can have it all. You can have my microphone. There you are, sweetie. Hello.
It's really hard to juggle everything. And
it is, isn't it? I mean,
be in 2 places at once.
Yeah, are we looking for something that doesn't exist when we think about having it all?
I think so, and there's so much on the internet, on social media, that can be brilliant, but then there's also so much as well that can make you feel really bad about yourself. And I think that we all aspire to this perfect image that we see on social media, and I think a lot of we want it all, and can we have it all, it comes from there as well. And I just think it doesn't exist, and we just need to stop putting the pressure on ourselves, because, you know, what is it all? You know, you can't define it, so there's no point trying to chase it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Rochelle, have you got it all?
I mean, if only. What is having it all? Hey, what is having it all? I'm here with Harriet. Do you have it all?
No, not even half of it. I think half of it is quite admirable. I find that mixing my home life with my work life is incredibly difficult, and I wondered if the panel had any advice, really, not just on having it all, but on how to cope with the guilt of trying to have it all, how to live up to that expectation, and how to juggle those balls, really, because I tend to
balance. I mean, has anyone sussed balance yet? No hands. No hands. Let's put that to you, panel. What do you... You're shaking your head there, Annie. What do you think?
I'm the typical kind of perfectionist type personality who always, before children, gave 150% to everything, thinking that everything had to be perfect. And I have had to come to accept, and actually I'm a big believer in now, the 70% rule. Don't tell my boss this. But that 70% is enough. Do you know what I mean? Nothing has to be perfect.
That's a lot of
no one's perfect. There's only 24 hours in a day, and half of those, in reality, you should be asleep. So you can only do what you can do. You know, we have this saying at Net Mums that every mum's just trying to do her best with the cards that she was dealt. And we were all dealt a different hand. And all you can do is pick up the cards you've been dealt that day and get on with it the best you can. You can't do any more than that. You can't.
There's your answer. Absolutely, that's right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I think you can have it all. Just change your all. All doesn't have to mean what you think it means. Make it up as you go along.
That's a really good point. Look, thank you to all of you. We're all going to kind of cosy back in on this lovely sofa.
Come on, Rochelle.
Rochelle's heading back as well.
Regretting these shoes.
Do you know, I nearly wore heels at the start, but I'm glad I ended up like Stacey, leaping over the edge of the circus. Let's just get some final thoughts. Well, from our mums and from our panel, because I think, you know, 2 hours has flown by, but one thing that's been really obvious, I think, throughout is the themes, you know, the fact that even though we're all separate people, different lives, we all have the same fears, don't we, Giovanna?
Absolutely, and I think we can just look at other people and think that they've got it all the time, and we don't see what's going on behind closed doors. You know, that whole thing of 2 hours flying by, I literally can talk, we all talk about being a mum endlessly, you know, you never run out of topics, you never run dry. You know? And I just think, I find it fascinating talking to people, and because, you know, people of all walks of life, we have the same problems, same issues, and the more that we share, the more actually we create even more of a community.
Yeah. And I think there's a bit of a grass is greener thing. Yeah. Like, I feel guilt for being a working mum, which I know that Stacey and we've all spoke about. But I love the fact that you touched on earlier that you feel like you should be a working mum. So I think either way, you're going to feel some sort of guilt, and I think I feel really happy that we've confirmed that, and we're all going to feel it. You know,
just we've settled that one. Do you know what? It's just so inspiring to be in a room full of people, men and women, who are all on the same common ground, who have all come together to support one another, because we all know that we're facing a quite an impossible task. Yeah. Nobody's perfect, but we're doing a blooming good job, every single one of us. And as long as we stick together and we're there for each other when we need it, everything's going to be okay.
Absolutely.
And no matter what, as long as you unconditionally love and adore your children, you are doing the right thing, and you're doing a great job.
Yeah. And if you take away all the judgment as well, if everyone stops judging each other, you know, because I think when you judge, actually, it's something within you. You're trying to, you know, come to terms with something that you're doing. Forget about it. You're doing what you're doing. Yeah. Get on with it. Don't compare. Don't judge.
We're amazing.
Yes, we are amazing. We'll get a final thought from our panel as well, because again, when you look at everything we've talked about, everything we've heard, everything we're going to take away from this, just the fact that we've had this conversation, you know, instead of just hiding it away, hiding these thoughts away, feeling that we're not good enough, feeling that we don't measure up, feeling that these are the kinds of conversations that we can't have. You know, finally, the floodgates are opening, and we can have these conversations, can't we?
Absolutely, we are. We're doing it. It's happening. But I think in terms of having it all, let's not forget that in a way, having a child is having it all. Yeah. You know, it's what we dream about for years and years. So don't allow yourself to not enjoy the joy of that.
Absolutely that.
Yeah. Also, don't forget, if you're wallowing in self-pity and having a terrible day, that's good too.
It's normal. Just to remind you as well, because this conversation, we've said it throughout. When we sat down here 2 hours ago, we said this is the start of a conversation that's happening here in Blackpool, but it's happening wherever you are, wherever you've spent the last couple of hours, whether you've been dipping in and out, whether you've hopefully sat and gripped to the whole thing. That conversation goes on now. That hashtag, Mum Takeover, has been born, like our children. And it will grow, we'll nurture it, and we'll keep it going, and we'll use it to share those thoughts, share those experiences, share those stories as well. And wherever you are, I just hope it's really spoken to you. this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. And also don't fear getting in touch and getting involved. This isn't just going to stop now, like you said, it's going to carry on.
Speaking of which, Annie from Net Mums, I know that there's a bit of news that you'd like to share with us as well.
Yes, so as I mentioned earlier, Net Mums is very proud to offer a parent supporter service where trained mental health professionals are available around the clock via our forum to support mums. It's difficult times, isn't it? But we don't have government funding anymore, but we are committing to fully funding that service for 2018 to make sure that that service continues to run for mums whenever they need it.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's great.
Incredible.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to our incredible panel. Thank you to Stacey and to Giovanna and to Rochelle. Most of all, though, well, and to me.
Every single person in this room.
Yeah, exactly. All of our incredible mums, everybody online. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks, mums and dads. Thank you.